Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our Wednesday Creativity Workshop with Adobe Education. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, and today I'm joined by Jess Campbell, who's joining us from Florida, and she'll be sharing about creating custom cut stickers with Adobe Illustrator and Cricut. So Jessica is an Adobe Education leader, and we're really excited to learn more from her expertise today. Jess, I'll go ahead and hand it off to you.
Thanks, Clara. So should I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, actually, no, I want to stay in my video for just a minute. So, hey everybody. So what I'm sharing with you today is a project that I've done several years in my class. I'm a graphics and multimedia teacher. Right now I'm at a high school. A couple years ago I was in a middle school working with Adobe Illustrator with 7th and 8th graders. And every year this has always been one of the most popular projects that I've done with my students, making stickers that they get to customize and make themselves. Kids love stickers, and I always thought that they would grow out of it, like it's only an elementary school thing, but it turns out that when they get to make their own stickers, they get super excited about putting them on their cell phones and putting them on their computers. It's a super rad thing right now. So I made a couple stickers today, and this is what I'm going to show you guys how to make. And I cut these and I printed them all here on this printer, and I've got a Cricut right behind me. And these instructions should work if you're using any kind of another cutting machine, a Silhouette or a Cameo or some of the other ones, but a Cricut is just what I have. So I'm going to be showing you the Cricut design space and also a couple of tricks and hacks to make the Cricut work a little bit more efficiently for you. So I'm just going to dive into Illustrator and get started first with actually, let me tell you what you need for this project. So I'm going to share, I've got a little slide deck here. Okay. So first of all, here's my name and contact info in case you want to get in touch with me. You're welcome to email me on my school email if you have questions or need any help with any of the steps that I'm going to show you today. You're also welcome to follow me on Twitter, BHS Multimedia. And I wanted to share what you'll need to complete this project, first of all. I'm assuming when I start this tutorial, your artwork has already been created. So step one is to have your students create the artwork that they want to use. So we're kind of starting after that part has already been done. You'll need some kind of craft cutting machine, either a Cricut Explore or Maker or a Silhouette, like I said, or any of the other brands are fine. I prefer to use a light grip cutting mat when I do this project because the sticker paper tends to peel apart if you're using the standard grip ones. So if you have a light grip, that one's better. And you will also need some painter's tape, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. And then finally, of course, you'll need to buy some sticker paper. So I'll switch over to Illustrator now, if I can figure out how. Here we go. Am I in Illustrator now? Is that okay?
Okay, so we're seeing right now now we're seeing Illustrator. Looks
all right.
Great.
It was a bit of a lag there. Okay, so here's my artwork already created. And what I'm going to start by doing is showing you guys how to create what's called a cut path. So a cut path is basically a vector shape that the Cricut is going to use to tell its knife exactly where to cut on your paper. And so there's a couple different ways that you can do that. Some students prefer to keep it really simple, and they'll do like just like a basic circle or a square to make their stickers kind of just like a bumper sticker or something basic. And if you've got beginning level students, younger students who maybe aren't as confident, this would probably be a good place to start. So that's what I'm going to show you first. So this first sticker design up here, I've already got a circle drawn for it. And one thing that you should do when you're preparing to start this project is to organize your artwork into layers. So I have each of my sticker designs are set up as a separate group. So here's the one for the first one, and the other one is grouped together separately as well. So I'm going to isolate this first group so that I don't mess anything else up, because I do that a lot. And I'm going to just bring this other oval here and try to center it around my artwork, but oftentimes centering things can be a little bit hard to do visually because these smart guides, sometimes they'll pop. Like right now it's trying to center with my star down there. So what I'm going to do is just hold Shift and select all the artwork in the group. Make sure I got everything, including all the text. And I'm going to use my align options to make sure that they're at least horizontally centered with each other. That way I'll get a nice even cut on both sides. So once I've done that, I could just use this as an outline straight the way that it is. But in that case, my sticker would have a white background and it wouldn't be quite as interesting. So where you can really start to make this project look way more professional is when you start getting into bleed spaces and margins with your cut paths. It's really easy to do. So I'm going to start with the circle, and I'm just going to go to Object, and I'm going to choose Path, Offset Path. And when I offset the path, I'm going to have the option to preview that so I can see where the new path is going to show up. And I'm offsetting this at about 10 point. And if you're using an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, that should probably measure up to be the same value for you. But obviously, you can just do it visually. Like there should be a pretty good gap here between these two lines. So I'll click OK. And now I have two circles where there once was one. And the next thing I want to do is just set this up to show the Cricut where I want it to cut. So maybe I'll make this inner circle have a thicker stroke. And that'll actually show up as part of my sticker. And then the outer circle, I'm going to give this one a different color. And I'm going to choose a color that's not being used anywhere else in my project. I usually like to use this magenta color because it's not usually a stroke that I use often. And that magenta color is going to be the path that the Cricut will follow to actually cut this out. But actually, I don't want it to be a stroke. I want it to be my fill. So I'm going to come down here to my toolbar and just swap those colors out. So now the circle in back, the larger circle, is filled with that dark pink color. Okay, so that sticker right there, that could be ready to cut. And what that will look like when I cut it, just so that you understand, never mind, I'll switch back to my camera later on. I don't want to confuse everything. I'll show you the example when I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to come back out of isolation mode now, and I'm going to make another copy of that sticker just by copying and pasting it. I'm going to paste the new group over here. Okay. So now I'm going to edit this sticker in a different way. Maybe instead of a white inside, I would prefer for this sticker to have like a background color. So let me think, because I always accidentally switch these. I want one of them to have a fill. I want my outer circle, the one that's currently pink, just in this example. My outside circle, I want it to have my fill color, and I'm going to use a gradient. And just so I can see that gradient, I'm going to hide. Sorry, this is a very back and forth process, so it might be a little bit difficult to follow exactly what I'm doing with my layers, but the principle is we want an outer circle that we cut and an inner circle that's going to have our shape, or vice versa. So one circle is going to have the fill color, which is this back one. I'd like to use my gradient tool. And I'm not sure when this feature came out in Illustrator because my county updates not on the regular schedule, but I am just loving this new little gradient widget where you can adjust like the roundness of these circles. It's really nice. Okay, so that's going to be my fill color for my sticker. And now with that other ellipse, the one that I hid before, that one's going to be my cut path. And so what I'm creating here with no stroke, and I'm going to use that same bright magenta fill, what I'm creating here is basically a bleed space, okay? So the Cricut is going to cut around the edge of that bright magenta fill, and it's going to cut away the outside of my gradient. That way I'm left with a nice smooth sticker background. I don't have any white chunks of stuff left over. I'm going to exit isolation mode again, and I'm going to make a third copy of this sticker. By the way, if the pink is bothering you, don't worry, because the pink part's not actually going to print out. It's just for the cutter. So I'm going to copy and paste this again, and make a third copy, and just show you one more possible idea for how you might arrange these things. And I'll go back and isolate this group again. So this time what I'd like to do is I'm essentially going to swap these things. I'm going to make my inner circle have that custom gradient, which I'm going to adjust again with my gradient tool so that it matches the shape of my oval. Okay. And then my outer circle, I'm going to make it that magenta color again. So what this is going to do is it's going to cut a white border. It's going to leave a white border around the outside of my circle. That way I still have that cool gradient background, but then I get this really nice white edge around the outside that'll look a little bit professional. Now it's really important to make sure when you do that offset path, now that you can kind of see how thick this is going to be, that's how thick the border of your sticker will be. That's the white area that's going to be left behind when we cut it. So it's really important to make sure that that offset path is a good enough distance so that you get that nice chunky white border and you're not too close to the image and it accidentally gets trimmed off. Okay, so that should wrap it up for those first 3 examples. Now I want to show you an example that's a little bit more complicated. Excuse me, I hope you didn't hear all that through my mic. Sorry. I'm going to
coffee cup though.
Oh, strongest woman alive, it says. I love it. Yeah. It's my inspiration during the day when I need a little pick-me-up. So I'm going to use this other sticker down here now, which has a much more irregular outline. So the offset path feature still works. We just have to do a little bit of work to it first to get it ready to do that offset. Let me just organize my layers here for a minute and close all these groups. And I'm going to focus now on that star group. And let me go ahead and isolate that so that I don't screw anything else up. Oops. And the example from earlier when I was practicing is still there, so I'm going to delete that and start over. Okay. So I'm going to grab just the outline of this design. And if you notice, the love part, the actual text on my sticker, is completely irrelevant for its shape because that's completely contained within the borders of the sticker, if that makes sense. So I'm going to kind of ignore my text for right now. The only 2 things I'm selecting are the star outline itself and the little cloud that it's sitting on. Okay. So I'm going to duplicate those items. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and then I'm going to go Edit, Paste in Back. So if you look at my Layers panel when I do this, the new layers are going to duplicate themselves and they're going to go behind the 2 layers that I started out with selected. Okay, so I now have 2 copies of the star and 2 copies of the cloud directly, perfectly on top of each other. I'm going to hide all the top layers so that I can see this outline being created, and then I'll re-show them again once I'm finished to check and make sure everything came out okay. So with those 2 layers still selected, we need to combine them all together in one shape. And the easiest way to do that, because I have all these individual little stars in here, you could use the shape builder tool, but sometimes it misses some of these pieces when I've practiced this before. I honestly just prefer the Pathfinder panel pretty much in all cases. It makes me feel safe and secure because I know what I'm getting with the Pathfinder panel. Is this panel showing up or is it floating away from you guys? You see that?
I'm seeing it here. Yep.
Okay, good. So the easy option in Pathfinder is just to unite the entire shape together at one time. Okay, now that looks a little crazy. It's only because my stroke is so large. So I'm going to lower that stroke back down to 1 point, and now I can kind of verify that this is the right shape from the star and the cloud put together. So I'm basically going to do the same thing that I did with the other ones. I'm going to maintain that the pink magenta color as my fill, and I really don't need a stroke on this at all. There we go. And that's going to be the background of my star. Let's check. Okay, so it is perfectly there, but I skipped a step in my nerves. Can you tell what step I skipped? I'm going to back up a little bit. Back to where I had that stroke on there. Here. I forgot to offset the path. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path. And again, I'm going to preview that and make sure that I have a nice gap between where my sticker design is going to begin and where my cut line is going to be. Okay. So now I'll click OK. And now I'm going to change the color of what I was doing. So when you offset a path, you actually end up with an extra outline every time. I'm just going to hide the one that I don't need, and I'm going to focus on this larger one, which is the outer path. So I'm going to fill that with pink, like I was saying before, and I'm going to take the stroke all the way off. Now if I check my artwork by making everything visible again, now I can see, yes. Okay, so the cut is going to go right along the outside, and that should look fine. So in the case of this star, I really don't think that putting strokes and all this other stuff is going to work with this particular design. Because there's a stroke already on the cloud, and if there was a stroke there and then another stroke around the whole sticker, it would just look a little bit crazy. So for this one, rather than doing 3 different versions, I'm just going to duplicate this one and just use it to fill up my page. Okay, so the cool thing about the Cricut is that it really doesn't matter where you put things on your page. I can rotate and move all these things around to try and make them fit. So I can just twist this guy around, try to squeeze him in there as much as possible. That should work just fine, I think. Okay, so this page is now ready to be printed. We just need to now switch over to the part where I'm going to tell you how to hack your Cricut, okay? So let me think, where do I want to start? Let me explain why we need to hack the Cricut first. If I pause sharing, can you see my video now? Or can you see me?
Yeah, we can still see you in the bottom right-hand corner, and then we see your screen too.
How do I make myself big? Stop sharing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. So here's what happens, okay? Cricut has this feature called print then cut. And if you've ever used a Cricut, you'll recognize what I'm showing you. So print then cut is when you use the Cricut design space to actually it automatically puts the things on the page for you. It creates this silly black registration bar that goes all the way around, and the Cricut is supposed to sense where the bar is and then perfectly cut out whatever shape you print. And it does a relatively good job. If I start to peel this off, you can kind of see that it's gotten a pretty good edge on those stars. It got up there. But it left a lot of information behind. There's some red left behind on my paper. And if I keep going down to get the rest of the clouds off, you can see that the clouds outline got lost a little bit. It lost a lot of detail. And then the other problem too is that just the quality of my print, if you compare this to the one that I did, this is the one that I did just straight out of Illustrator, the print quality is way better if you just print from Illustrator. So using Cricut's print then cut feature, I mean, if you don't have Adobe Illustrator, fine, but we're Illustrator pros, we need to do it the real way, and so it's just not good enough. So I'm going to set that to the side.
We have a quick question
Sure.
too from Teresa. So she says, I have always created cut lines as strokes, not fills. Is this technique specific to your machine?
It might be. So what I notice when I use strokes instead of fills is that it cuts twice. It cuts around the outside of the stroke, and then it cuts the inside of the stroke, so I get all these crazy little thin hairs all over my design, and so when I do a fill, it only cuts the outline. I would assume that maybe some machines can read that stroke probably as a stroke and not as a shape. That's just the way that it tends to go through on the Cricut. I don't have any experience with a Silhouette or a Cameo or anything else, so I'm not sure if they're different.
He says that makes sense. And then Claudia says, Jess, sometimes I have some problems converting to SVG file. It's going to be the cut line. How do you normally set them up?
So I actually stopped using an SVG file also because it was a little bit buggy. I discovered that I get just as good of a result with a PNG. So that's what I'm going to use today in just a minute when I convert it. And it actually works pretty well.
Awesome.
We do have to do a little hack, though, to the Cricut in order to get it to cut right without that print then cut feature. Because the print then cut is supposed to magically make it all work, but it really doesn't. So let's see. What we're going to do, this is where the painter's tape comes in, okay? You're going to take your mat, and you're going to line it with painter's tape or masking tape. And since my sticker paper is 8.5 by 11, I've tried to cover up those lines on here. So this is about 9 inches of tape. 9 inches this way by about 11.5 inches that way. And what we're going to do, this is, I found this on YouTube, and I wish I could find the guy who came up with this idea and pay him like $50, because I spent a week trying to get my Cricut to cut without using print then cut, but getting it to cut cleanly and without wasting a ton of paper. And finally, just this one guy had this little YouTube hack, and it is just the greatest thing ever. So what we'll do next is in Cricut Design Space, which I had open. There it is. We're going to go into Cricut's Design Space now. Here we go. I'm going to take all this off. So we're just going to make a square. And we're going to make that square exactly the size of a piece of paper. We're going to unlock that aspect ratio and make it 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to snap its position all the way to the top corner by setting my X value to 0 and my Y value to 0, just so that it automatically goes right up to the top. And I'm literally just going to cut this paper-sized box out on my Cricut. And I'm going to do it right now with you. I'm going to press continue. I'm going to load this into my machine. Adhesive backed paper. And it'll only take about 15 seconds to cut. You guys see the machine?
Looks
Go,
cool.
Cricut, go.
Looks like Claudia commented he's been using a scan cut from Brother, if it's similar. I'd imagine.
So it's literally just cutting out that 8.5 by 11 shape.
And with Cricut on the workspace, you can put out your designs. Like, are there other templates that they have available too?
You can. I accidentally just kicked the power cord and it unplugged, sorry. It was almost done. But what it did, if you can see here, is it cut out an exact outline of a sheet of paper. See this?
Oh, yeah, cool.
And I got that tape a little bit too close on that edge. But now when I'm ready to print my stickers, it missed that corner. That's where the power went out, was down there. So when I'm ready to print my stickers, I'm going to take that sticker paper. Nothing ever works right when you're trying to do it live. The rest of it didn't cut. That's okay. You guys get the point of what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Sure we do, Jess.
And Claudio, hi Claudio, just asked, you might have answered this already, but what Cricut model do you have?
It's a maker. It's a Cricut maker. So now when I arrange my sticker paper, I can put it right on that blue painted tape. Like that. Does that make sense what we did? So now the Cricut is going to be perfectly lined up with the paper. It works. Okay. So that's the step one to the hack. Now there's another part of the hack that we're going to do actually back in Illustrator again. I'm going to flip back to my screen share. I'm going to go back to Illustrator. Yes? Am I in Illustrator again for you?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to get this ready to actually print now that we have the mat ready to go. So we're going to make some registration marks. Okay. The Cricut can see these registration marks, kind of, but actually they're to force the size of your page to stay 8.5 by 11 when it gets into design space. So we're going to take our rectangle tool and just make 4 small rectangles. I'm going to enter 0.25 inches in this box, and when I press tab, it's going to automatically convert it to points for me so that I don't have to do any math, because I hate math. That's why I teach computers. Computers do math for me, but only if you type in the right units. Okay, so there is a 1/4 inch square, and I'm going to arrange that square in the very top exactly left corner, and I recommend zooming in and just making sure that it is totally flush with the corner. Then I'm going to copy that, paste another one over here in this corner. Go all the way down to the bottom of the page and repeat the process for all 4 corners. And one more over here. Okay. Now we need to take all these cut paths and those registration marks, and we need to put them on a layer by themselves so that we can turn them off to actually print our artwork. So I'm going to use the magic wand tool. This is why it's really important to make sure that for every cut path you use the exact same swatch. I like that magenta one because I don't tend to use it other places. So when I use my magic wand tool, I can just make sure that it's set to select by fill color, and I'll just click on one of my bright pink objects.
Just quick question, just to
Sure.
clarify. I think this is correct, but the magenta color is a spot color in the swatches.
It's not currently a spot color. It's just the default color. If I wanted to make it a spot color, I could go in here and change it to a spot from the swatch options.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, so the magic wand tool, when I click on one pink thing, it selects all the pink things, which is awesome. I'm going to press Edit, Cut. Scary, because now all that hard work is gone. But I'm going to make a new layer. Call that layer Cut Paths. And then I'm going to paste all of those objects back in place again. So they paste exactly where they were before, on top of everything, but that's okay. Now I can turn the cut paths on and off. So what I would do if I were doing, I'm not going to make you sit through my printer and all this stuff, but I would now go to the print feature in Illustrator with my cut paths turned off, and I would go to File, Print, and I would check my margins down here to make sure that nothing is outside of my printable margins, and I would just print this document as is. Now I'm going to hide my artwork layer and turn on my cut path layer. And now I'm going to export my document as a PNG. When I do this, I'm going to make sure I check the Use Artboards feature, although I only have one artboard, but it just makes me feel safe to have it checked all the time. And I'll click Export. And it doesn't need to be super high resolution, so I'll leave it there. And unless I've forgotten any steps, I think that should be it. Okay, so now we're going to go back into Cricut's design space again. I now officially have way too many windows open on my screen. I want to go to design space. Okay. Cancel out of that. Cancel that. Here we go. And we can get rid of that paper that we did. So I'm going to upload that PNG that I just created. Did I go too fast? Did you see there's a little upload button over here? And then I'm going to choose an image by browsing for it. And I'm going to browse for that PNG that I just saved, which I think it shouldn't be that one. It shouldn't have the 01 at the end of it. I didn't notice where I was saving it to. Sorry. No, I'll bet you it is that one. Sorry. I see it now. Yep, that's the right one. It's got all the fill colors in it. Okay, so I'm going to use those shapes, and I'm going to click Simple, because these are high contrast colors. I'm going to click Continue. Don't need to do anything there. And now this is very important. I'm going to make sure I choose to save this as a cut image. Okay. All right, that's been uploaded, so I'm going to choose that option and click Insert. So now here is the cut paths from my Illustrator file. Notice these registration marks, okay? They are forcing this group to stay at an 8.5 by 11 size. That's why they're there. If it wasn't for those groups, the Cricut would automatically assume that the edges of the document are like somewhere closer in, and then the cut and the paper won't match when we print it out on the printer. So that's actually pretty essential. Once that's done, I do just want to confirm and make sure, and you should double check this too, that the size says 8.5 by 11. If the size comes in wrong, probably your registration marks in Illustrator are not quite exactly on the corners of the page like I was showing you before. So you should make sure to go back in Illustrator again and just double check that everything is perfectly done. Don't be afraid to just put a regular piece of printer paper in there and cut it on printer paper before you waste all of your sticker paper. It definitely took me several days to do lots of trial and error to kind of figure out where I was making mistakes with this whole process. So once you've got it in there and it's the right size, you can just click Make It. And I apologize for this being black on gray, but that's just what Cricut does. Now I do need to make sure that this alignment matches the paper alignment on my mat. So my mat is actually facing landscape. And if I remember the way I printed it, the stars are facing this direction. So you should always double check that too, because you'd hate to cut it on the opposite side. And then you're just going to click continue. And I'm not going to reprint or recut all these things because I already did it before the workshop, because I didn't want you to have to sit here and watch it work. No one likes just staring at a Cricut forever. So I will come back and show you. So again, here's the finished products, okay? We've got this sticker. This is what it comes out like with the white outline. We've got the star with all the strokes from the clouds included. Here's the one with the white background and the stroke around the outside. Came out nice and even. And then the gray with the bleed space. So the bleed space is really, really important for kids to understand. If you do Adobe certifications, bleed space is a question on practically every certification. And they don't understand what that means. Like, they don't get it. So I love when we do the stickers, I'm like, this is a bleed space. And they finally understand really what that trimmable area is for. So this is a great way to make that exam objective be real world, which is super important. So I wanted to take one more minute to show you a couple of student examples, just a few that I pulled right before we started. This is student design artwork that she prepped for her stickers. She painted all this in Illustrator. She traced these, did a clipping mask to make the images on the inside of the hands, and then we cut them and printed them, and a bunch of kids in class now have these on the backs of their cell phones. Here's another one.
Can you share your Illustrator really quick?
Oops, sorry, it's not. I forgot. My bad. You're just watching my face. Hi. I need to go.
I saw the stickers though. A lot of people say that those stickers are really cool. Georgina says really cool. So hopefully we can try these out in different classrooms.
Can you see this preview here? Can you see the sunset or sunrise or whatever this is?
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she drew these in Illustrator and then just duplicated it. And the nice thing about doing it this way and not using Cricut's cut then print feature is you can maximize all the paper, because this paper is expensive. And so if you're wasting like the bottom third of it just because the Cricut can't like think that hard, Illustrator lets you be way more thoughtful about your materials. She also drew these hang 10 signs and did clipping masks to put different like scenes inside of them. And a bunch of kids, they all have these on the backs of their phones now. This is another student's work. I don't know what this means. Some of these kids are so interesting. Yee is apparently a thing now with teenagers, at least in Florida. But he did some stickers with his dog and his puppy's face on them. This is a student who thinks he has his own clothing brand. I think it's a grand dream. I encourage him in that dream. For our logo design project, this is the logo that he made for his imaginary clothing business that he wants to start. He did a whole photography series with him and his buddy out on a dirt bike, and they used that for all their photo editing for the year. So then when it came time to do the stickers, they were like, oh, we're gonna make stickers with our brand on them. So they were so excited to like try and give these away to like promote their teenage entrepreneurship. This was a sticker that a student made for all of her friends. I don't know, apparently there's a rat in the theater, and so they all think the rat is like their friend. So she made these as like a gift to give out. She's a senior before she left. They're like all inside jokes that I was like, they're appropriate jokes, right? She's like, yeah, it's fine. Okay, I trust you, whatever. So they absolutely just go bananas for this project. They just love it. I'll wrap up with a few ideas for you. Am I back in my PowerPoint now?
So right now we're seeing your Google document.
Oh, the notes that I was cheating off of?
No, now we see your PowerPoint.
Okay, good. I told you, I've got way too many screens open. Sure.
Yeah, so first, Erin says, this is really cool to see what your kids are doing, so thank you. And then Anissa asks, like, on average, how many stickers can you fit on a page?
It totally depends on how big you make the stickers. Like for example, the kid with the clothing logo, one of the things that he wanted like bumper stickers, or actually they're dirt bike stickers. So he could only get, I think, 6 on a page. But then the girl who did the sunrise, she made them all about 1.5 inches. She wanted them to be really small, like thumb sized, thumbprint size. So she had like 20 or 30 stickers on that page. So you can totally customize it to be whatever size you want.
Awesome. And then Claudio has 2 questions. So one, design space is cloud-based. So I think you're talking about, just to clarify, is it Illustrator or
The Cricut design space?
Cricut? Yeah, I think he's talking
Yeah.
about the Cricut design space.
It is cloud-based. It's a web app. When you load it for the first time, it does ask you to install some plugins and updates, but it runs all through the browser.
Awesome.
What I have my students do, I make a classroom account for the Cricut design space. It's just my email and like a generic password. So I don't know if you saw in there when I had the design space open, but there's a bunch of other really random looking projects. Yeah, sure. No worries. I can share sorry, I got the chat open now too. I can see Sherry. I can share the Google Doc with you guys. I was thinking about writing this up actually to put it on the Adobe Education Exchange once I get all this done, because it's all ready now. Might as well share it with everybody, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
And,
I let the kids just go into the design space on their computers and just upload their cut paths. Then I have a laptop that I attach to the Cricut, and so once they've uploaded it from their computer, they can just go over to the laptop and actually print them out on the Cricut themselves. And it works pretty well that way.
And then in terms of the paper, again, I know we had mentioned this briefly in the beginning. Is there kind of sticker paper that you recommend?
So I can tell you what I don't recommend. This is what I bought last year. I bought it because it wasn't very expensive. It is not waterproof. And I bought it because it was the only thing I could find that was inkjet and laser compatible, which was still a mistake. I ended up having to bring in my inkjet printer from home because the laser ink just kept rubbing off. So the kids were a little bit disappointed. They were like, "Oh, it's fine, it's fine," because some of their stickers, like the ink, started to rub off after a little bit. So I've got an extra box of this if anybody wants it. This year I'll probably try harder to find something a little bit high quality. What I am looking for when I buy another pack of paper this time around, is I probably will get some kind of printable vinyl instead of just inkjet paper. And I'll stick with something that's straight for inkjet and not try to do this dual paper again, because I think that reduced some of the quality of the color that came out. I don't know if you can tell or not on the video screen, but this has like a pinkish tint to it a little bit. And that's from the laser printer. It's just, I should have done it with the inkjet in the first place. But yeah, I'll definitely get a vinyl paper. And if I can find something that's waterproof too, I know the kids really like to put them on their Yetis and their cups. So I would probably try to invest in something. But then, that costs like $15 for 10 sheets. So then you get into, well, do you want to start charging the kids a couple bucks per page, which I think is fair. With this, I was able to give a box of 100 only cost $10. So I gave every kid 1 sheet of stickers for free. And then if they wanted more, I charged them, I think, $1 to print another page. And some of them did and gave them out to friends and made all kinds of stuff with them. So
Very cool. And then one more question from Eric. Do the Illustrator corner paths need to be slightly rounded, or does the cut do well with sharp corner points? And I see an example right there.
Yep, the corner points work really well. If the angle was any closer than that, I could see it getting a little bit off. This is about, 45 degrees? So I think if you were to get even more narrow, but I did a project last year. Another thing that we do is we use the Cricut to cut heat transfer vinyl for t-shirts also. And my t-shirt design had like really intricate little dotted lines on it, and it came out beautifully on the Cricut. How well it lasted as heat transfer was another story, but the Cricut cut it great.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for taking the time to share this with us today. I know things are super busy.
I've still got one more slide to show you really quick. It just has a couple of other ideas on it, because I've done this project in a lot of different methods, and I'll try to make sure I pick the right window this time.
Yes, definitely.
Google Slides. Okay, so extension ideas. I know that some people's programs really focus heavily on like creating products for sale, marketing products. So another way that you could extend this project further is to try and have them make a label that would actually go on the outside of like a jelly jar or a box. That could help sell something that you might be working on. I also was thinking it would be fun if you partnered with other teachers in your school, or like I'm in a high school, so maybe I would partner with some of the elementary school teachers that feed into our classes and let the kids design stickers for the elementary school kids. That would be a good use of this cheaper paper that doesn't last very long, like to give to teachers to put on their kids' work, like custom free, Hidden Oak is our elementary school down the road, Hidden Oak great job stickers that you can give to the teachers to put on their kids' work. This year, I'm also going to create a dual-sided sticker. On the backs of the stickers, I'm going to print a message that says, want to make cool stuff like this sticker? Register for digital multimedia. And I'll pass them out when we have all of our recruitment stuff for freshmen and during the elective fair that we have at the end of the year for registration, and try to drum up some more support for my program. And then one thing that I did when I was in middle school, which was really, really popular with the middle school kids, is I sent them down at lunch every day with a table, and they set up a little table in the cafeteria, and they were selling their stickers, and I think I chose like 10 or 15 designs total. I didn't do all of them because it would have been chaos. But I printed out maybe 20 or 30 copies of each sticker and sent them down to the cafeteria to a table, and they were selling the stickers to the kids. And it was a contest to see who could sell the most product with their designs. And then we did all kinds of math things about like, how much money did we sell each sticker for? How much money do we earn per page? How much money does it cost for the ink and the paper? So how much profit did we make? And they ended up like actually getting to kind of experience a little business model with that sales activity, which was really, really fun. So yeah, those are the other ideas I wanted to share with you guys. I think this is an awesome project. It's so much fun for the kids. It's just great. And if I can help in any way, if you guys want to email me or find me on Twitter or anything, I'm happy to help you guys get it set up if you have any questions. It's awesome.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. And I'm thinking, I love those extension activities too, and how you're bringing in so many different like cross-curricular elements. And
you can tell my background's in curriculum design. I'm always all about the extensions.
For sure. And we're getting a lot of like awesome actions and reactions in the chat. People can't wait to try it. Thank you. And then we had one last question from Andrea.
Sure.
I know you had mentioned t-shirts briefly, but what is your suggestion for t-shirt heat transfer paper?
Okay, so the kids all had different ideas. Some of them were totally excited about doing vinyl for their t-shirts. I like the vinyl because it gives a really nice, smooth appearance with the color. It's blocky, it's bold, it just looks really professional. The problem is some of them wanted to do like real graphics. One of my kids last year made a t-shirt with his face on it that said, your favorite child, and gave it to his mom for Mother's Day. So, when they want to do things like that, when they want to put their face on a shirt, you have to use inkjet transfer paper. And I mean, transfer paper is hard. There's so many different brands. Amazon can almost be overwhelming with how many different generic brands there are. I know for the vinyl, I definitely recommend Sizer Vinyl. I know that that's a brand that they sell in Michaels, and you can buy on Amazon a little bit of a discount, although Michaels does have that, 15% or 20% teacher discount, helps with that. As far as inkjet heat transfer paper, I don't know of any specific brand that's any better than anything else.
Cool. Well, thank you again, Jess, so much. I know things are crazy with back to school, so appreciate you taking the time to share this really, really cool project with us. And I see a lot of people in the chat now want to go out and get a Cricut, so that sounds really cool. But again, you had mentioned if those who are watching the recording want to get in touch with you, Twitter and your email address, so I'll make sure to share those out. And I know you're also on the Adobe Education Exchange, so I'll make sure to share out your profile as well.
Sure, thanks.
Well, thank you for all those who are watching the recording and tuning in. And thank you again to Jess. Be sure to join us next week. So Wednesday, August 28th, we will have Adobe Education leader Sherry Disler, who's also going to be joining us from Florida, who will be sharing snapshots of learning Spark page for ePortfolios. So stay tuned, and I hope everyone is having a great back to school season. Thanks.